Good morning. It is January 14th and I am back from my business trip, and it is a little chilly up here at the boat today. About 40 degrees outside, about 55 inside. Just turned the heat on. I think the last thing we did was, or last thing Jeannie did, was she painted the corners of these, so we're going to be sticking these down in the equipment room, and then we're going to start laying out exactly where the wood's going to go for the port wet locker and area for dry bilge and grease trap and any other stuff that we can stuff underneath there after we drop these back down below. So that's what we'll see first. Later. So this is the bottom outline of the wet locker that's going to go over here. I think this is going to be the top or the floor of the wet locker. We'll have a support here, weld that to the base here. It'll come up here. This guy will come over, be welded into him. The little piece that'll come from here all the way to somewhere right around in here, wherever this, that white tube may need to be moved a little bit. The red wire will be the easiest to move. And then just a little flange, a little 6-inch shelf for the wood to sit onto, and then there'll be a support beam coming from here and over. So there'll be 2 support beams, and then the frame out here. Then we can put the piece of plywood in, and the grease trap will be right there, and then the dry bilge unit will be sitting right about here. So I think that should work. We're about done for the day. There's a rocket launch later in a little while, so we're going to go up to the clubhouse and wait for that. But we got the leg brace in and then put the first floor support brace in. We can't do this one because this is not a fire blanket or a welding protection blanket. I mean, it'll work for a little bit of splatter, but all of our fiberglass heat resistant blankets we threw away because they were just falling apart. So we got to go out and get another one, and then we can do that area, although I think we're going to take all those hoses and move them out of the way. There's only going to be a couple things we have to protect. But anyway, so the next piece we'll put in is we'll put a piece that'll go from there into the wall, and then we'll drop a piece going that way, and then we'll add a little tang, probably 3 to 6 inches off of the corner there, so that the board has support here, supports here, and then support there. And of course, since this piece is coming all the way across, it has that support there too. Once we get that done, probably drill about 3 holes in each one of the supports, and then the plywood will get bolted down to that. And then we'll eventually build a shower pan type thing, which will have about a 4-inch lip on it as you come through the door there, so it'll be able to hold up to 4 inches of water. But there'll be a drain. We slope this just slightly. There'll be a drain back here in the corner. Water will go down and out. Anyway, that's about it. I'm tired. It's been a long week. Later. Good evening. It is January 17th. We're going to weld the braces in for the wet locker. Later. we are done. The frame is all done here. We got this guy put in. Some of my weld joints look really nice. It's really a hit or miss with me. Sometimes I get good ones, and other times, man, it looks like I'm drunk as a skunk. Some look good, some look bad, but I think they'll still hold. So the next step, we're gonna paint this frame, paint all the spots we had to sand, and then we will get a sheet of plywood to go on this to be the subfloor, and then we'll get a piece of plywood coming up here to be the back wall. We'll then install the grease trap and the new dry bilge system. We will reconnect the drain and hook it all up, and hopefully that will all work well. We'll see. Later. Good evening. It is January 18th.
Happy birthday, Alex.
Yep, it's Alex's birthday. Happy birthday, Alex. It's our daughter-in-law who is expecting. We are in the court bathroom where the head will eventually go. We're actually working on the grease trap. With the ends or the inputs in on both ends, it's becoming way too big. So we're trying to see how we can get it to fit in here. Otherwise, we'll have to be getting a smaller one. Anyway, that's what we're going to work on tonight. Plus, we got to clean up all this area and paint it in the next day or so. But that's about it. Well, we got this area a little bit more cleaned up. We decided we're going to return the grease trap to get a smaller one. We got that painted, got this area cleaned up a little bit more. Put up the other tools later. Good evening. This is January 19th, 2023. Installed this little fan up here. It's supposed to do 2,000 CFMs. I'd be surprised if it's doing 200, because it does not feel like much in the way of air suction. I was trying to use it as a whole house type fan, so I'm probably going to be seeing that back. Anyway, the second thing I got that I've already installed is a little Tempest weather system. It's already outside, just sitting on the deck. This is like their weather program, but you can go to the thing. So it's 73 degrees outside right now, 2 miles of wind, all types of interesting information. My only concern is I got to see if it'll work just local. So I'm gonna start taking out the old dry bilge. Oh, fun. So that we can work on the new dry bilge. Well, I've gotten all those out. I have not pulled out. These are the main power wires that go back to the DC box back there, but I pulled the breakers for them, so don't have to worry about that. Those are going to get pulled out. Just not worried about them hanging there tonight. Those guys have been deposited in the garbage, which is what they are. So if you're thinking about buying one of these Seaflow, it's a nice package. They got a patent pending, but disappointingly, patents doesn't mean it works. So they work for a little while, and then they got dry and died. We're going to replace it. We'll bring up the new one tomorrow probably, and start working on getting it routed in. Oh, that was the other thing I noticed, is one of the plastic parts on the bottom cracked when I tried to take the toes off of it. So even those fittings aren't that great. But yeah, it just cracked right off right there. So not real impressed. Well, of course, they're still an order of magnitude cheaper than the replacement part. So, but hopefully the replacement part works. We'll find out later. Good morning. It is January 20th. We have no shore power at the moment. So anyway, we're running off an inverter and solar. I did confirm the yard does not have it. Gonna work on the dry bilge thing and continue laying out the room in here and get the stuff over there hooked back up. We returned the other grease trap, and the smaller one that's coming doesn't get here till tomorrow, so. But we can certainly work on the dry bilge system. May go clean the solar panels, see if we can get more power out of them. Later. We have received the Arrgghhhh bilge system, which is replacement for our Seaflow dry bilge systems, which did not continue working much past 3 or 4 months. So anyway, it's going to be the unboxing. We're going to cut the package open. Lots of stuff in there. There were a bunch of peanuts in here. There's a peanut. Anyway, we bought an 8-port unit, and they said it's a number 1. This is like a little probe one. And then lots of sensor pads. We got quite a bit of movement. At least we thought we were getting movement from the Seaflow ones. They say they don't have issues with that, so we're going to just drop them into the bilge and see how they behave. The locking system on the Seaflow was a bit of a pain because we had to move them a couple times when we realized, oh, that's not really the low point right now. These are the normal size, and they got these mini size, which I guess are about 1/3. The unit's going to be in the middle of the boat, and so we have lines going forward, lines going back. So we bought about 400 feet of hose here. This seems to be maybe it's a heavier gauge than what came with the Seaflow units. Another pad. Interesting. Some of these I hadn't noticed, but some of them have the little pickup there, and then some have them in the center. And here's what one looks like. This is an end one. Looks like out of the baggie. It's glued on. It's like it's the
Brillo pad.
Brillo pad stuff, yeah. So which should wick just like the sponge. The other ones had sponges that definitely deteriorated too. So I think that may last a little bit more. Instructions, information, your certificate of ownership, and then installation material. The important item, I can get it out of here. The dry Bilge unit. Okay. Let's pop it. Okay. So on the larger units, you got this side partial input. So it looks like you have your inputs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 8 DC voltage. It looks like there's, I don't know if there's an internal fuse or anything, but there's just 2 wires. I have to read the instructions. And then obviously the output. So one of the major differences on this system is it actually has a small vacuum pump in it. Based on the resistance felt in the vacuum pump, it keeps sucking until all the water is gone, shuts itself off, yeah. And then like every 3 hours, checks, comes on. I don't know what that is, weird. It's like just glued over that hole. So there is a circuit breaker right there. Or now let's reset the meters. Oh, I see. So you got little hour meters you can go and check. One thing I wish it had, I wish it would put this information out in a NEMA format so that it could be monitored by the system's kind of a self-contained unit, which, you know, doesn't lend itself well if you are traveling or away from the boat. You don't know what it's doing. So it's my only complaint. We had on the Seaflow ones, we monitored the 12-volt line inside the unit. We had a sensor wire on it, so anytime it turned on, we could confirm that it's running. This would be able to actually say, I'm running and I've run for this long. The Seaflow pickup pads, and we're going to run these pads, put them in locations, and run tubing to right underneath the wet locker area, which is where this puppy is going to end up living. I did mention NEMA monitoring, and while it doesn't do NEMA, I did talk to the gentleman about adding a signal wire, which would tell me whether the thing was on or off, and I thought I was just going to get a single wire. But we opened it up a little while ago, and I'll go ahead and redo that here. But basically, this front cover is Velcroed on. This will also let you see the inside of this unit. Actually, so if we open this puppy up, now what I see that they've added is they've added a little terminal block here with each one of the sensor wires. So what I'll be able to do is I'll add a wire to each one of these outputs. 2, 3, 4, yeah, 8 of them. Each one of these outputs, and I'll run it to a C-zone or a C-zone, yeah, input output device or COI or something like that. And now I'll be able to collect all the information that's showing up on these meters. I'll also be able to collect with C-zone and have it send me alerts and things like that. So pretty cool. So there's the inside. Quite a bit of interesting hardware in there. Some relays. Be interesting to figure out what all the different parts are. You can request that. I want to say it was either $20 or $80. I don't remember which, but either way, if you have a monitoring system, this would let you get the stuff out onto the NEMA, so now you can have the system monitoring it. The nice thing about this is you can also, as soon as you have a meter that says, you know, it ran more than whatever the default time is of 10 seconds or whatever, you can then have it throw an alert. Now you know you need to go see what's dripping. Later, in my rush to do the welding, I need to get these wires and stuff out of the way. And the hose is out of the way so the welder wouldn't damage them. Of course, now that we're done and I'm going to put the wires back in place, those should have run underneath here. It would have been better that way and this way. So at the minimum, we're going to go ahead and cut the PEX here and run it underneath, and then that'll let all the other wires lay a little cleaner. We got the floor cut out for the wet locker, and this will just be the subfloor. We're going to make a shower pan type thing to go on top to keep any water and drain the water down and anything, but got all the wires pretty much hooked back up. There's a couple things that haven't been hooked up because we're going to put blocks on the bottom and secure them to that. But I think that's about it for the day. There she is working. Good morning. It is January 21st, 2023, and we are back up here to continue work on this guy in here. Going to mount this board over there and then start looking at doing work with the dry bilge. Okay, what I am doing, we want to try to decouple engine room noise from the living spaces, so I'm going to put a strip of rubber on all those pieces, and so when the board gets down, there's a little bit of decoupling there. I know it's not great decoupling, but and we're also probably going to stick onto the bottom of this some of the heavy matte pieces so that a little bit it helps. Biggest thing will be making sure there's no air spots. Probably should go get the sound meter, crank up one of the engines and see how bad the noise level actually is in decibels so we can see if we're making improvements or not. Professional boat builders, they have models of their boats and they can do engine or noise analysis and a whole bunch of things. Well, I'm afraid I don't have that, so I'm just gonna wing it. Of course, the biggest sources of noises of this boat when coming from the engine room is that floorboard right there. It needs to be dogged down so that there's some pressure, and then kind of that foamier stuff so you get a good compression on it. Originally, we were going to put the dry bilge, that guy right there, up above, but after looking at where we can run that through and where this is just about level with the output line. But anyway, Jeannie's taken out the old C-flow sensors, which is now a 10 times more difficult job because they were originally put in when all the other equipment was not there. So she's just having loads of fun. And of course, we got a drill press in the way too. I think that's going to have to be taken out. You know, all the stuff that's here is going to have to be moved in order to get to things. So anyway, I'm going to be making a little case for that while she works on that, and then we'll both join in on working that bit of fun later. I thought on power up it was supposed to go through a number of steps, but it's not going through any of the steps. Let's see. Powered up, but didn't do anything interesting.
Well, maybe there's no, like you said.
Well, no, that doesn't match what the description says it should do. It says, as the pump shuts off, an intake valve opens, zone 1 lights on the first cycle, and this is when water oil starts flowing through the 3/16 intake tube. The pump is not running while the water, but I never did that cycle. Oh, there it goes, I think. It says low vacuum. There's making high vacuum again. Doesn't seem to be behaving as expected at the moment. But I'm hungry, I'm tired. We will call it a night later.